much. Another risk, but certainly not a world risk in the international newspapers. Diptyque Laurent is joining us. This is a big risk in Brazil, though, isn't it? The Brazilian press reacting to the judge revealing phone taps of conversations between Dilma Rousseff and Lula da Silva.
That's right, Stuart. It's the latest episode in what's becoming a political soap opera in Brazil. A federal judge has released recordings of phone taps of a conversation between President Dilma Rousseff and Lula da Silva, the former president. During this conversation, she tells him that she's sending him a document confirming his nomination as chief of staff, which we learned on Wednesday, and that he should use it as needed, only as needed. Now, the interpretation of these words are quite ambiguous. Rousseff's opponents say this means that she gave him that position to give him immunity from prosecution over a corruption scandal. But the president says, Dilma Rousseff says, it was simply a piece of paper that Lula was meant to sign for his likely absence at his swearing-in ceremony to take place this Thursday. That's according to Folha de Sao Paulo, a Brazilian daily newspaper.
Now, the opposition, though, saying it's very, very clear here, she's got to go, she's got to resign.
It's an article, it's actually an opinion piece from Veja newspaper, a political journalist who's penned this opinion piece saying it's time to occupy Brasilia, the capital. He calls on MPs to put pressure on the judicial system to speed up that impeachment process, and also says, get out Dilma, get out Lula, get out the Workers' Party, leave before, quote, blood is spilt on the streets.
Okay, a lot of anger towards the government then. Political cartoonists, perhaps not surprisingly, they're having rather a field day, aren't they?
That's right. This look at this cartoon republished in Le Courrier International by the cartoonist Faber, who draws for O Globo, another Brazilian daily newspaper. You see Rousseff there, who was actually Lula's protege, and Lula himself as a pair of jugglers, really, playing with Brazil's problems, whether it be corruption and money or preparation for the Summer Olympic Games, the Zika virus. And it's interesting because the article in Le Courrier International quotes Lula from 1988, so pre-president, when he says, when a poor person steals, he goes to prison. When a rich person steals, he becomes minister. So no doubt there'll be a bitter taste for many Brazilians.
Okay, that's how the cartoonists are seeing it. We're going to move on now to the US. This is the appointment of Merrick Garland as a Supreme Court judge.
Much has been written about the 63-year-old nominee to the Supreme Court judge position, as you can imagine. And there was a lot of contest. There was a lot of opposition from the Republican Party on Wednesday. It's sort of a transitional political time, and there's a lot of doom and gloom in the papers. The heading from this Daily Beast article, a good man about to go through GOP hell. And in fact, the article is written by a former law clerk of Garland's who describes him as intelligent, fair, moderate, hard-working, so very good qualities for a Supreme Court judge. But he deplores that instead of questions being asked about his competence, his experience, what can he bring to the position, it's kind of been hijacked politically by the Republican Party ahead of November elections. So he really deplores that action.
Yeah, we were looking at the images of him being announced, if you like, by Barack Obama earlier. He certainly didn't look very happy. There's also rather a perception that he's rather a sitting duck here, isn't there?
The piñata nominee, if you like. I like this headline from The Guardian. In fact, a Texas senator coined the phrase piñata, and I think it's very illustrative, really. Whoever was going to be nominated to that Supreme Court position was a sitting duck, essentially. Garland's an easy target during this sort of tricky pre-election period, and he's also, to be honest, not likely to be to be holding that position after the election. That's what the Guardian says. What's interesting is their analysis of why he was chosen. Barack Obama essentially preempted the response from the Republican Party, and that's what he wanted. He wanted them to oppose the decision, to make them look unreasonable and perhaps give a bit more impetus to the Democrat presidential race.
Now, I'm afraid I've done something wrong this morning. This time last year, I was wearing my green tie. Stephen's got his on. It's St. Patrick's Day today, March the 17th. It is the Irish National Day.
It's also possibly one of the most misunderstood festivals, at least according to Time magazine, who've run an article debunking many myths about St. Patrick's Day, notably that information about the patron saint of Ireland. He was actually a slave who was not Irish but came from Britain. The day was historically associated with blue, not green. And being a religious holiday, it was also a dry festival, which, of course, modern marketing has completely changed today. Now, while most people will be celebrating by attending parades, having a boozy afternoon in the pub, parties, so forth, there are more debaucherous ways of celebrating. According to this article from the Irish Independent, they quote Pornhub who say there's an upswing of, get this, 600% of people watching Irish-related porn on St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
And even weirder, there's a spike by 10,000% for those looking for leprechaun-related porn.
Excellent. I'll make no comment about leprechaun porn. I think that's probably best left. Next year, though, Stephen, we'll dress up like that guy, okay?
You
Patrick's
can.
Day.
I'll let you do
I
it.
think business like that, definitely. All right, thanks very much, Dipti and Stephen here on France 24.